ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else, I'm Quickshot, joined at the caster desk by Dagda, as well as special guest Jamada on loan from the LPL. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm hoping you can bring some of that LPL energy with you.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Fnatic Mad, historically some of the most aggressive teams in Europe, so I'm hoping that I have brought that flair along with me and that they regain some of that aggression.
I definitely want to see early game changes for both of these squads. Before that, it's picks and bans. We're jumping in very hot. Fnatic side selection on the blue side here against Mad Lions in game 1.
And I really want to see an adaptation from Fnatic coming into today. It felt like in their last series against SK, they had a completely off read of the meta. They were still playing Xayah in the bot lane. They gave over Kai'Sa, Tristana, and Maokai in that game 1 against SK as well. So this is where I want to see a big step up in seeing what they've been working on in their time off.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think you can kind of say the same thing about Mad Lions and some of their priorities as well into XL, right? Giving over Rumble, Rell, Kai'Sa all at the same time. Very, very questionable decisions, and I'm really curious about what they're going to prioritize, 1, 2, and what they're willing to give over to Fnatic from these first 3 bans.
A lot of those champions you just mentioned still available. Rell, Rumble, Maokai. LeBlanc will be removed from the pool, and that does mean at least 1 or 2 of those picks will be allowed through. We saw last week a number of Kai'Sa first picks, but it will be banned here by Fnatic.
Yeah, so with the Kai'Sa ban, Maokai, big question mark here for me as well. I know looking at Humanoid solo queue, he's been spamming the ever-living hell out of Jayce, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them try and prioritize some sort of Jayce Maokai and get control early over that mid lane, but we'll have to see if it will be let through or what exactly the game plan is going to be here.
Yeah, wondering about the Poppy as well. That's kind of risen to pretty much first pick priority in some cases as well, alongside some of these more powerful known to meta picks. Mad Lion's going to remove that one away.
Immediately taken away. Razork has definitely had some very high impact plays on that particular champion. And with some of those very sort of important meta picks, it's going to be the Jayce locked in here. And Elyoya now has the pick of the litter. The Rumble still up, the Rell still up, the Maokai still up to boots.
And I'd love to see the Rumble locked in here. Myself and Jamada were talking backstage about how much we'd like to see Mad kind of shift their identity a bit and start to play more towards Chasy. When you think of when they were their most successful back in like winter and even the run that they had in spring, it was trying to play through Jayce on these carry picks, and it looks like we're going to get it again.
And I think subsequently then as well, off the back of that point, Nisqy on some more facilitative picks, right? Even if it means sort of relying back towards things like the Ahri, the Gragas again, I think that's really the most successful version of Mad Lions. For now, though, they're going to go towards that Rumble and Rell, and our questions immediately answered in the first rotation.
I love this combination. And of course, Hylissang piloting the Rell can have gigantic impact if the coin comes up in his favor. For Chasy, however, in the 190, 200 odd games in his professional history, not a single game of Rumble. So this will be first time for him on the stage. And now Fnatic need to figure out what will their answer be. Does Oscarinin have something to reply to this Rumble in the top lane? No big surprises there for the Maokai. Not a pick that I traditionally associate with Razork, but the impact and the power it has in the current meta is gigantic.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. Is the fact that you get your AP and AD mid-jungle that can work well together. You've got great team fight setup, and then you got a ton of control as well when it comes towards things like the ability to play around early dragons, especially with something like a Xayah. I would love to see this from Nisqy. He's also been playing this in solo queue, but I will add slightly less successfully than Humanoid has been playing Jayce. So we'll end up swapping back over to the Ashe. At least this, as Mad Lions, gives you a lot of control to try and fight back against some of this early aggression that you'll probably see going towards things like the Dragon on the bottom side for Fnatic by trying to get control over bot lane and then leaning that in towards River.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that Yone pick, whether or not Nisqy's actually going to be willing to pull it out. Oh, you actually saw earlier today in the LPL playoffs, right?
Yeah,
it was OMG, Cream,
well.
yeah, so like this Rell plus like these big AoE ultimates with a bunch of damage are kind of sort of trending in the meta right now. Mad Lions going to remove away the Jax because they just don't want Oscarinin on comfort, even though Rumble typically does run over that lane, just not willing to give it over.
And I really like this vibe band. Not a champion that we've seen too much of here during the group stage on 13-13. But when you do combine that with the engage tools from the Ashe, plus the Rumble, the long range, it is hugely impactful.
I will say though, this Rell, technically a flex pick, right? So we're going to have to see whether or not this ends up in Elyoya's hands or not. They've had a week to sort of, you know, change things up, and we'll see whether or not that ends up there, because this Fnatic vibe band could end up being a bit of a waste, especially if they end up dumping 2 true jungle bans into this rotation.
Yeah, I'm curious to see exactly what they want to go for. The other option, as you say, is to go for some sort of like support, but again, that's kind of been what we traditionally see, is like we don't know where Rell is exactly going, so maybe we're worried about an Analyst or something along these lines, but you have the Xayah there. You should be fine to go for Peel in every other situation, so I actually don't mind getting rid of some of the jungle bans and just trying to force yourself into a safer position with this Xayah.
Now, of course, let's quickly mention that technically that Jayce could also go to Oscarinin. Was the champion that he was running in his debut, his third most played as well.
And I also like the idea of Fnatic trying to get a carry for Oscarinin. One of the things we've seen from Fnatic, especially over the last, like, say, 4 or 5 games, is that they're way more willing to try and play up towards that top side. And I think that was one of the big things that SK read, was that they wanted to give early resources to Oscarinin. It's just that Marcoon was there consistently to shut that down.
Yeah, and there's the Ahri. I mean, I feel like for me, for Mad Lions, this is very much a lot more reminiscent of, you know, Spring, of Winter, going back to their own personal bread and butter. So I love to see this. And it still holds on to that Rell flex as well. So we don't really know where the Rell's going to go. If we end up seeing Trymbi on, well, actually, their Khan's banned, so we'll have to see whether or not that Rell actually ends up being flexed.
I think you could put a bot and then probably take Jarvan into the jungle here for Elyoya as well.
Ooh.
So then you basically end up with the hot pot that was so familiar in LPL so often.
There's a lot of immobile carries and champions too, right? Nothing with a whole bunch of mobility to get out there. I like that shout, Dagda. That could actually come out from Elyoya. We'll see though. And again, it falls under that category of champions, you know, Wukong, Lee Sin, Vi, things that will engage and initiate in the mid game. But Braum definitely does make that a bit harder.
He does, but take a look at this long-range, safe engage for Fnatic. The Maokai backed up by the Ornn. The only concern I have immediately, it's really only a full AD damage. Yes, the Maokai is going to have some there, but with the Xayah and the Jayce, you're very reliant on them burning through everything that Mad Lions have put together.
Yeah, I think the thing is, though, Maokai does deal a pretty substantial amount of AP damage, so you're fine. Also, the Ornn, as you say. And as well, you're not looking at any mega tanks on the opposite side. Like, Rell tends to go for those more supportive items, where she's going for the Evan Shroud and these kind of things. So she, yes, ends up kind of tanky, but not massively so. And with the Milio there, I'm kind of curious now. It feels like you've got an Ashe at least to try and start things off, but it feels like Chasy's going to be struggling now to kind of find that help to set him up apart from Elyoya.
Definitely a bit of an awkward pick, but also where else do you go, right? You probably land on an enchant because it's Braum blind. Curious about for Mad Lions, a lot of pick. Definitely like snap engage team fight from things like the Rell, then the Rumble on top of it. You're really fishing between charms and arrows, I think, on the other side for Fnatic. A little bit more poke oriented, definitely can play front to back. Very, you know, nuanced approaches I'm expecting from them.
I think as well, if you ever fall behind as Mad Lions, you're in so much trouble, because Fnatic with this beefy composition can command so much space when it comes to any sort of objectives or rivers. So even if they're late to the party, they've still just got people who can brute force their way through and try and push back. So I think a lot of this is going to be on like Chasy and Elyoya to see if they can separate out these team fights with their ultimate, specifically Chasy trying to separate the back line so then they can deal with that front line first.
And I think about how these 5v5s are going to play out and how much more important and challenging it will be for the Mad Lions in terms of execution. This is a very unique comp, whereas for Fnatic, it's just straight up. Beefy frontline, have your damage dealers behind, and one of the things we've learned a lot, keep it simple. Let's find out who will win Game 1, Fnatic or the Mad Lions? Welcome to Summoner's Rift for Game 1 in this elimination series. The loser dropped out of group, will not advance to the next round. The winner will be playing off against SK, if I recall correctly, tomorrow. Defensive start here across the board. No shenanigans afoot for the time being. And I think when we take a look at these drafts, like you said, Dagda, definitely for Mad Lions, do not want to be in position where Humanoid can get the poke down, can be backed up by Oscarinin and Razork, who will just so easily and from such safe distance zone every single member of Mad away from either the Dragons or the Heralds.
And that's why a lot of this early game I'm going to be keeping my eyes on towards Razork to see what he can do. He's kind of been the magic starter for Fnatic, has had a phenomenal split. I mean, a lot of people talking about him in contention for the best jungler in the league right now. And if he can try and get control here against Elyoya in that kind of Spanish bout, I think he's going to be very happy about himself.
A bit of a derby in the jungle,
yeah,
if I may. Yeah, I have to say, I feel like for Mad Lions on the opposite end, you have to wonder how much time and pressure they're going to put into the top side, because you've got Chasy on this Rumble into an Ornn who shouldn't really be able to pressure him too much, but on the opposite end, on the bottom side, you've also realistically got what should be a lot of priority as well to play off of. So I think a lot of decisions are going to have to be made very early on from Elyoya about where he wants to delegate a lot of his early time. If it's going to be into this Chasy Rumble pick, definitely want to try and get him further and further ahead ASAP.
Quickly talk about Chasy and this top lane, because in terms of how Mad Lions played throughout the course of summer, in contrast to spring, when you look at the goal difference, the CSD jungle proximity for me, this summer, Mad Lions haven't necessarily played around him or tried to enable him. Obviously, the meta has an impact on that, but with this Rumble pick, I want to see them going back to what helped them win spring.
Yeah, and that's the big one here, is that Jayce just hasn't really got any of that success. And even we saw Kadra and the lads talking about in Mad Lions last series, is that not only is it a case of he's getting less resources, but he's also getting caught more in isolated deaths, especially in their losses. So for Chasy, this is where I want to see a step up, as you say, with Elyoya giving him resources, getting this Rumble ahead. It looks like we already might be off to a good start, as Elyoya is starting to move in towards his top side.
Yeah, especially in the mid game for Chasy, right? The thing about Rumble is he deals a lot of damage. Yeah. He's very bloody squishy, and look at the CC that's available to Fnatic, so he's gonna have to be careful. For now, though, eyeing up Elyoya, maybe looking towards putting a bit of pressure down onto Humanoid.
Humanoid immediately moving south from that mid lane. Steps forward for a second. Elyoya's got that red buff. Crash down comes up. Charm connects as well. Humanoid down to 200. Below, one more auto and 100 HP. He's able to escape. Holds onto the flash as well.
Yeah, the fact that he's got flash is huge, because now he can take a reset. He might have enough gold for a tier as well on the timer, and it might not be the end of the world, to be entirely honest with you. So pressure definitely felt, and good job by Mad Lions to put that pressure down. It will at the very least blow that time.
Yeah, and I think Elyoya's kind of realized, look, as long as we can get control over this mid lane, we're going to be in a pretty good spot. You even see him invading there just to get vision down, so they know Razork is more than likely gone for a full clear. We'll reset after this. And then even look at where he's positioned right now. He's not clearing his camps. Yes, he's getting the Scuttle Crab, but it's more of a case of, okay, I want to make sure I can play around my bot side, make sure they're safe in case Razork goes for any funny business on the bot lane.
When you take a look at the minimap, Carzzy and Hylissang are pushing very aggressively forward. Chasy down below 100, overheating. Oscarinin stepping back. He doesn't want to go under the tower. No support from the rest of the squad, and with the fact that Razork has done that clear, he now looks to invade on Elyoya. The bottom lane for Fnatic is able to respond. Trymbi thought about it for a second or two, and Chasy losing a number of minions, losing time, and being forced away by Oscarinin.
Yeah, just being greedy with the reset there. As soon as the wave hit the tower, you can see Oscarin's like, Grant, I'm just going to walk at you. You've got to completely give up this wave. And there's a second wave now that's just crashed the turret as well.
And not only that, because Oscarinin actually dragged the wave, now this is going to be a massive slow push back. I'm kind of curious about what Razork's going to do at this time, and whether or not it's going to give him a window to gank Chasy as well, as Chickens went over to Razork in the end.
Really nicely done here from Razork. Full clear out, and Trymbi and Noah, they're the ones stepping forward for now. Getting good damage down onto Hylissang. He's already used that heal. And for Trymbi and Noah, big change up from last weekend's series. This time around, getting into the face of Mad Lions.
And I think this sets up beautifully then if you want to try and look for any sort of level 6 shenanigans, right? Razork can get down there, immediately use the ult. Hilly won't have that available, and you can try and make a play there where you can try and pick off the Milio just as things start. But for Fnatic, this is a great start to the game, right? Yes, it's a bit unfortunate that Humanoid gave over he didn't give over his skill, but he ended up giving over a bit of control over that mid lane. You can see he's managed to get that back, yeah. And as well, your top lane carry that Chasy's brought out isn't really working, and I'm actually in a terrible spot from that bounce back, you said.
Chasy's in trouble, already used the flash, engaged on from Razork, held in place for now. The shield has been popped, and this is going to be first blood for Fnatic, punishing Chasy on that slow pushing wave that you talked about.
This ult comes back from Chasy greeting his base, and Oscarinin dragging the wave. And the fact that it was stuck in that position from that slow bounce back just means that Razork has a freebie. Had information on Elyoya's base as well. They'll lose the Raptors, but at the end of the day, first blood goes over to Fnatic.
Look at mid though, Elyoya wants to try and answer.
Level 4 into 6, Humanoid flashes away, stunned up, charmed back, Orb of Deception, below 100, the auto secures it, and kill immediately reply for Mad Lions.
Good call from Elyoya, manages to move in towards the mid lane and sneak in that play onto Humanoid. Now Razork will have to give up these Raptors as well, because Nisqy's just off the reset. He's going to be fine.
Not done yet. I mean, Oscarinin level 6 to Chasy's level 5. Call of the Forge God drops him down to 200. The pillar pops up, and this minion wave needs to be cleared. Chasy's in so much trouble. Flash is available for Oscarinin. Does he go for the dive? I think he might be feeling
Oh, he's dead.
Gets the knockup, gets the Bellows Breath, and another kill for Fnatic.
And again, the wave was bouncing back out. This huge crash means that Chasy was nowhere near 6, so no equalizer to even clear the wave. He was trying to. Oscarinin just taking full advantage of this top side.
I'm real glad we brought up that Chasy stat to be like, this is Chasy's time to shine. He's going to go great. It has been a disaster for them.
And you know what? Oscarinin had a pretty rough time of it against this game. Also, this is a huge bounce back to see him come in and really dominate Chasy in what should be a losing matchup.
Could be, but for the time being, it's Oscarinin that is dominating, plus 1.4k. So many waves have been denied. No teleport available for Chasy either. Down a level, maybe 2 in the not too distant future. So he's going to return to lane, and for Fnatic, a little bit of return to form from what we were anticipating from the regular season.
And I think when you listen to SK in interviews afterwards, they kind of said they downloaded Fnatic, right? They understood that they were going to try and play for some of these opportunities on top side. They were going to try and look to see if they can then play for team fights off of those leads and try and snowball the game completely out of your way. But in the SK series, they couldn't find that success. But you can see here, right, Fnatic, they get one gang top while Oscarinin is popping off. And now Mad Lions are kind of left scratching their head. They're trying to set up for this Rift Herald here, but I really don't know if they're going to be able to. There's still a lot of damage, but I suppose it's Humanoid that you have to rely on to try and answer back that damage from Mad.
Yeah, I feel like also on the side of Mad, Equalizer, it's always huge. No matter what year it is, it feels like if you find a good red carpet, you're probably going to win the team fight. So I feel like for Mad Lions, they're still going to be relatively confident skirmishing on the top side, but I look towards Elyoya to actually set up those engages for it to happen.
The problem is Chasy doesn't have the shoes for the red carpet yet. You know, he's walking with the brown paper bags on his feet. It hasn't been a good call, and that's where my biggest concern is now for Mad Lions, because I do agree with you. I think they would have loved to play around the Rumble. Like, that was kind of the big call, especially as this Rift Herald comes and you get the level 6, but it just feels so difficult right now as Humanoid already going to spot out Elyoya.
Good damage already, forcing Elyoya back. Rift Herald is available, and a couple of wards in the river there for Fnatic, so they are aware of this. And while we have a brief moment before the skirmish, take a look at their regular season early game stats. The thing that I want to look at is their kills at 14 and their deaths at 14. On average, throughout the regular season, 4 kills to 2 deaths. Obviously in that one series last weekend, didn't manage to secure that. And this is how Fnatic have really played most of summer. Aggressive, early, in your face, and led by Razork. It is exactly what's happened so far this game.
Yeah, and I want to see if they're going to be able to keep this one up, because this is where Fnatic are most comfortable. They kind of leave Noah to do his own thing. Look, he's a little bit behind, it doesn't matter, he'll catch this wave. But the big question that what I want to look at is, what is the decision here? Are we actually going to play for this dragon? Because you can see Fnatic are a little bit separated. Mad have got pop push, they're getting priority in mid, and it's setting up now for Mad Lions.
Taunted Crystal Arrow will tag onto Trymbi. He's so far blocking the damage. Nature's Grasp will slow down Mad. Humanoid in hammer form gets the smack back. 4 members of Mad pushing forward, and Humanoid's alive for now. The crash down comes out, and another kill to Nisqy. Mad Lions managing to run into the jungle of Fnatic, find their second kill, and they can decide which objective they want to play for.
Very, very valiant from Trymbi trying to block the crystalline arrow, but at the end of the day, Mad Lions just had more numbers faster than Fnatic did, and they went out on that skirmish. It won't translate into a dragon, though. Fnatic still able to defend the area for now.
This, though, is a big step up for Mad Lions, because one of my biggest gripes I've had with them from watching their last series was how they set up for objectives. It was like, oh, well, we got push in bot lane, but Nisqy's actually resetting while Chasy's kind of doing his own thing. We don't have a team that's actually all on the same page. You can see there, though, Nisqy's like, cool, I'm going to burn on my mana to make sure I can get control over mid. Carzzy and Hilly have push in bot lane, and then they rotate as a group to get river control, and Fnatic get caught out.
Well, right now, Fnatic maintain the lead. It's 1,000 gold up. They have started the dragon here around 10 minutes. Only 2,000 gold up for Oscarinin in the top lane, but it's 600 for Nisqy mid. Pretty much dead even elsewhere. The dragon being secured and uncontested for now. Mad Lions will fall another objective behind. The Herald is still standing. And I do see a pair of boots on Chasy, but I don't think he's quite matching up Oscarinin.
I'm not sure they're ready for the red carpet.
No.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy's coming up in like the mask and everything. He's going to be looking great. It's like, no.
It's a masquerade for Fnatic on the top side. I'm really curious about this Herald now, because I feel like Mad Lions, the top side is so outmatched, right? The fact that Oscarinin is so far ahead, it makes you wonder whether or not they even feel confident towards the top side. They couldn't even take the Herald whilst that dragon was going on. So now does it become a question of we give up the Herald and try and make a cross-map play on the bottom side of it?
Yeah, I think that's the case. It's either Elyoya like skips Rift Herald and tries to be the fairy godmother for the Cinderella in the top lane, like get that play, get some gold onto Chasy, or as you say, forego it completely and just go, we are going to play for bot lane now. You have the ultimate up for Carzzy. The problem that with trying to play around bot lane though is, I mean, Cleanse, Noah has ultimate, you got Trymbi you can get in the way. It becomes really difficult to actually make that play unless you go for the Braum, and even then that's a bit of a dicey call.
Right now, Braum is not in lane. We're sitting next to Razork in their jungle. Mad Lions had a fair amount of movement across the map. A real objective to play for, and with Chasy and Elyoya grouping up around the Herald, Nisqy looks to be the first member stepping into the river. Humanoid can challenge, and Razork has got that ultimate available to him. Herald's down to 6,000. Mad Lion starting to back away. Nature's Grasp has been thrown down. Call of the Forge God catches him out. Chasy may not even be able to get the equalizer. Finally does before he's dropped. Magnet Storm is a reply from Elyoya, but the damage is simply too high. Trymbi blocking all the autos, and Mad Lions are in full retreat. Here comes Noah looking for Carzzy. Gets the flash for now. Shock blast onto Hilly. The bellows for another. Fnatic find the second kill of the fight. Another knock-up as well, and Elyoya will fall once more. It is all Fnatic all day.
And this is what we're talking about. If Mad Lions fall behind, it's a disaster. They can't get into the space that they want to, and Fnatic pounce immediately.
And Mad Lions in that choke from all of that non-committal engage, it's so difficult to walk away from the fact that Fnatic honestly were able to pull something off like this when Mad Lions, I don't know, it feels really awkward to even be in this spot. It's a bit disappointing from the Mad Lions perspective.
Yeah, especially as you look here, Fnatic, we're coming back into it. Mad position themselves in an okay spot, but it means that Razork's got a great choke point to flare in there with his own ult, followed up with Oscarinin, and Humanoid's just taking free pop shots, and you haven't even got no one in a position here, right? Like, in theory, Mad Lions were the ones that were grouped on this objective first, but as you say, then you got the 3 beefcakes that are able to tank so much of Carzzy's damage. Noah then walks up to cut off Carzzy, and after that, Fnatic can just follow up on the backline as well. So really good job from Fnatic here to find that engage perfectly in that choke point.
Just felt to me like Fnatic a little bit earlier to the objective. They were more capable of playing that straight up front to back, and they get themselves yet another objective. The Herald sitting in Razork's inventory. Gold is up to 2,500 the lead. And in terms of just like actual combat statistics, it is even larger than the gold suggests. If you look at the top of your screen, only 4,500 gold in converted gold to items. I mean, for Mad Lions, it has to become now a stalling game. You need to buy some time. You cannot afford to get caught out and concede multiple kills for every neutral.
I don't even know if you have an opportunity if you buy time. Realistically, like, look at the spikes that you get on these different champions. You, like, Rumble, mid-game. Ahri, mid-game, and even to a certain extent your Ashe as well. A huge amount of this was what Jamada said. You want to play for pick, but they're getting picked.
All right, Carzzy is going to be able to just about escape for now. Throws out the ECA and buys enough time for Elyoya to arrive. Magnet Storm's available to him, but he's opting to clear out that ward instead. Maybe he doesn't even want that fight. All of a sudden, Elyoya gets turned on. While all of that is going on, Oscarinin continues to apply pressure in that top lane. Got 4 plates secured already. Still a gigantic advantage for that frontline tank. The Mad Lions have to find an answer for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they look for the mid lane. Humanoid, no flash.
Where's the charm? Connects the stun as well. Teleport has been thrown out here from Oscar. He immediately calls the Forge God, knocks up Elyoya into the air, but they're not going to commit further than that. The Reptel was dropped in the bottom lane. It's a fight on 2 fronts. In the mid, Nisqy finds himself another kill. This time onto Humanoid. Noah's being burned down and taken out. Chasy finds himself one. He's overheating. Needs to smack Razork in the face with that drill. And Razork will get burned down. A second secured for Chasy and the Mad Lions. Nisqy's not done yet. I think in that middle lane, finally securing it was 3 kills to Mad.
Yeah, I mean, Chasy is able to teleport down to the bottom side because Oscarinin TP'd mid to try and turn around that 2v1. So Chasy now might just about be back in the game, considering where he was a minute ago. Picking up those 2 kills is going to accelerate him hugely.
Yeah, we were joking about needing the bippity-boppity boop from the Fairy Godmother. Might actually need a little bit more help, though.
Another teleport being used. Chasy is low, no flash. Equalizer is available. Hilly throws out the ulti, but Chasy's being shut down by Humanoid. Kill secured. Trymbi managing to hold them in place. Another reply from Fnatic.
They stuck around that a little bit too long. We just praised Chasy, and then he tried to crash the wave so that then it would reset, but instead ends up getting caught out. Carzzy now is making his way down to the bot lane, but I think for Fnatic, the eyes are going to be starting to drift over towards this dragon. They do need to get the reset. Probably coming in here, as you can see already, Braum, Oscarinin have made their way back, but with no ultimate really available on the side of Mad Lions, apart from maybe Carzzy who can start off fights, I feel like with Razork's ultimate up and available, Fnatic can again control these points like we saw at Riftchart.
Yeah, the thing is, those choke points are so scary when you're playing against Ornn, when you're playing against Maokai, and when you're these immobile champions with basically the exception of the Ahri, you really do rely on Hylissang having his own, and he doesn't have that either. So I feel like for Mad Lions, you might just have to yield this one entirely. We'll see if they poke their head in, but right now Fnatic already on it. And
they're just not in a position as Mad Lions to try and go for any sort of cross map. You can see Chasy lagging behind because he ended up getting that death across, so he's not putting threat really onto the top tower. Humanoid is even going to be able to get the bot tower as Razork solos Dragon, so Fnatic, they are not letting up the pace here. They know they're firmly in control, and this is the Fnatic that we saw in the regular season, now showing up in groups.
For Mad Lions, I do not want to see them grouped up at any choke point at any time. We saw the impact that Ornn and Maokai had earlier when the chaos was spreading the members across the map. Mad Lions skirmishes can still close the gap. They find the kills. That gold is now shrunk, but they are still 2 dragons down.
Yeah, but you can tell that Fnatic really want to try and get control of this game, especially now as Oscarinin might come in behind Mad Lions here. He was considering it with the Blast Cone, but this for Fnatic, I mean, it's do or die in this series, right? If they don't get control of this series, they will not make it towards our season championship at the end. They will not have an opportunity to try and get to Worlds, and Fnatic are hungry to make sure that they can keep themselves in that chance.
Well, we're just going to brief pause here in the action. In terms of these two organizations, they've faced one another a lot. All time, 13-13. They've each won 2 best-ofs. Throughout the course of this year, 3 wins apiece. And at least as far as the beginning of this game has played out, it has been Fnatic that have landed the first punches and been able to generate that lead. But Mad Lions as a team and as an organization have shown time and time again they can play from behind. They have the ability to play from a deficit. And that's what they're going to be called upon to do right now. 1 minute until the Rift Herald is up. Mad Lions, similar to the first of the game, a little early to the objective, trying to place that vision down. Nisqy's got teleport available to him. He's south of this middle lane. Fnatic, what is the answer? Humanoid, no TP either, so he's still pushing bottom.
I don't think you want to group here as Mad, though, because you've got a ton of opportunities to engage here as Fnatic.
Nature's Grasp comes out, Equalizer's been thrown down. Tower still stands, teleport completes for Oscarinin. Call of the Forge God flies across, gets a flash already, and that's already Hylissang taken down. Trymbi's trying to use the Unbreakable, but Humanoid arrives to the fray. The accelerated shock blast not doing a ton for now. The kill secured for Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, really good engage again. Oscarinin just comes in from the opposite side, right? Finds Hylissang, no flash, they know that. And they just pick off the support who can't really do anything about it. And now Mad Lions again on the back foot. Herald spawning up very soon. This should just be their objective, even without the armors up.
It's bizarre decision-making from Mad Lions, though. They're 5-manning mids against Maokai and Ornn. Like, that's just an easy setup. Like, you put the fish in the barrel directly in the mid lane, and all they have to do is take the pop shots.
You don't need a choke if you just aim. Right? Like, that's just kind of how it goes down. And I mean, yeah, the disengage as well from Mad Lions, whilst you can see it is relatively potent, the issue is, again, the fact that Fnatic can engage from like 2 screens away at every opportunity they can find. It's just too aggressive for the Mad Lions to walk away from.
And this is where I think for Mad Lions, you got to start trying to change up the decision-making, right? I think if you push mid, start to set up vision control, maybe then you can look for the picks off the Ashe. You can try and find those moments where Fnatic are trying to group on you and find someone to pick off, but they're just not really giving themselves that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's the problem for me is that Mad really want to play off vision, right? They want to play off Fog of War, but if Fnatic have an idea that something is going on, they've got Maokai and they've got Ornn to immediately respond if it's not those 2 members already face checking. So life just gets really, really difficult for Mad Lions if you can't even play through one of the strongest ways that this comp probably does want to play.
I'm so terrified for Mad Lions every time they group around a tower, one of these neutrals, because of the impact that Fnatic's comp has. We're approaching 20 minutes on the clock, and one thing that we have seen is just how quickly this team wants to play around those Barons. So let's keep our eyes on the vision. Dragon is in 1:40, and it looks to me like Mad Lions are trying to look for opportunities, trying to find picks. The last few minutes of gameplay, a lot of movement across the Rift, and right now bottom tower seems to be the target as Hilly and Carzzy will spot out multiple members of Fnatic cutting off their route to that bottom tower.
Again, though, for Mad Lions, you don't want to be trying to contest in those choke points. Like, you can see them walking forward to get the ward, but if Razork just tosses down the ultimate, what are you going to do? And the fact you're now grouped, Fnatic are just like, well, we're just built for this. We're built different, and we want to try and make sure we can use this Rift out to get the tower.
Chase is also being drug up to the top side by Oscarinin as well, so Herald's probably going to get a second charge in.
Look at Oscar on the flank. Level advantage over Chasy from behind though. Nisqy and Hylissang have an angle. Razork is trying to buy some time. Nature's Grasp in the opposite direction. Humanoid forced to flash for his life. Chasy doesn't have the damage just yet. Burn that equalizer in the middle lane. Carzzy can't find the autos. Oscar now tanking for days. Shock blast onto Carzzy, who's flashless, who's ghostless. Humanoid looking for the hammer fall. We can't find the damage just yet. The magnets are thrown, but here comes no one. Flashing over the wall, forcing the Mad Lions back. Oscar's turned onto Elyoya. It may end up being a 1-for-2 thus far, and it is Fnatic once again winning out the fights.
Mad Lions were so close to finding what they needed, separating out Fnatic, finding these small skirmishes, playing towards the strength of their composition. But it all falls apart. Fnatic managed to regroup and they take back like Mad Lions.
This approach was so smart. I think they've acknowledged they've thrown themselves at the wall 2 or 3 times and just gone, we can't front to back. They look for the backside angle, but unfortunately Fnatic able to just actually stand their ground, and the fact that Noah then gets access to mix people in this choke as well, Feathers, is huge.
And I love the way they're coming in here, right? Nisqy and Elyoya drag one tank off. Oscarinin has already separated himself, so it means that Mad Lions can try and play from the front. You can see how far Noah has to run away. He's getting no damage off. Carzzy's free firing this entire time, and it's about trying to separate into these skirmishes. But by the time Fnatic have already reset, everything in the kitchen sink has been thrown by Mad, and then they can find themselves in a better position.
They tried to commit onto Trymbi, they tried to commit onto Oscarinin. We're actually out of the replay as Mad do secure this dragon, so that's going to stop the soul spawn for now. Chasy
Bought some time, Jamada. That's all they've done is bought some time. But it is a gigantic advantage here for Fnatic, who've already got 3 towers secured. Humanoid will take 4th, while Carzzy was pushing there in the top lane. Gonna start to back off, and for Fnatic now, turn their attention to this bottom wave, extend that lead even further. And if Mad Lions stand under their tower to try to defend, that is prime targets for Razork and Oscar.
Yeah, the problem is though, it was a call from Mad to be like, hey, we want to try and delay the soul, but you've now reset in the middle of Fnatic coming out onto the map with their Baron buff. So you lose mid tier 2, you're going to lose this bot tier 2, and Fnatic are going to have a lot more time to see some.
Carzzy throws out the enchanted crystal arrow. Humanoid burned down just a little, but look at the shock blast in return. Tower being chipped away from. Nisqy's trying to clear this wave out. They've at least got rid of Humanoid. He's teleporting now back to join the rest of the squad. And it's still 5 members of Fnatic sieging this inner turret.
If Fnatic won this tower, I think they're just going to make Oscarinin press his R key, and Mad are just going to have to yield. I think at this point, give it up. There's no point in trying to contest this, otherwise you just get run over again.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just trying to delay as much as possible to get the Baron buff off, but you can see here, they're still going to have 2 cannons now to siege onto this bot side. And Mad Lions, we already talked about it, their engage isn't great without Carzzy.
So much damage already. Oscar gonna find the knockup onto anyone but Elyoya. He's zoned away for now, holding on to that Magna Storm. Nisqy takes a shock blast to the face and is forced back. Chasy, no equalizer for a while. Same with Carzzy, Inhibitor now the focus. Elyoya can disrupt and do some damage, but can Mad Lions burn through the front line? They are so far behind in itemization. Inhibitor will stand as Fnatic back away for now.
It's just about having vision control over Elyoya. As soon as they can't do, there's no real threat. And Razork actually spot onto Elyoya there as well. Keep your eyes on Razork ults. That's what they're playing for here is Fnatic.
5 seconds for Carzzy, 3 seconds on the enchanted crystal arrow. Nisqy's looking for the charm, blocked by that unbreakable. Carzzy finds an angle, looks for the shot, and is holding it for now. 5 seconds for the equalizer to boot. Nature's Grasp captures 1 and 2. Defensive moves from far. Mad Lions flash in with the Magnet Storm. But the feathers from Noah keep him up and alive. Chasy's forced to run for his life, and Carzzy simply cannot burn through the front line of Fnatic. Humanoid steps forward, fires out that shock blast, and Nisqy does get one back. Somehow, Mad Lions hold on to the inhibitor and find themselves a kill.
You can see some of the threat of this composition from Mad Lions, though. It's so close, right? The Rell ultimate comes down. I don't even know how Elyoya gets the cast out. He was so damn low. Chase's ultimate just a second too late, and the fact that Noah is able to actually use the ultimate to block out some of that damage, huge. All of the feathers on the floor then stop Mad Lions from actually trying to approach for more kills. And again, things like the Rumble, too squishy to actually take that step forward to try and find those extra kills.
Yeah, now you get Fnatic who are going to come back out onto the map here. You see, as Jamada was breaking down just here in the replay, where you get this move forward here from Nisqy to try and lock down Fnatic. Ends up kicking onto Oscarinin, but then Razork, remember what we said, just look towards Razork's ultimate. That's what they're waiting for the second that engage comes through. Honestly, I think Elyoya should have done this reverse. Flash in immediately, try and get the W, buy that big CC for Mad Lions to maybe follow up, especially with the ultimate, but as he went to back away, you can see how low Fnatic go, but there's just not quite enough in the tank to take them down.
Yeah, there's just not enough in the tank, not enough, like, you know, sort of wombo, I feel like.
Yeah.
If it's not the Rell and the Rumble, it feels like you really just fall short in terms of being able to burst out a carry, and I think that's the big thing. They've never really been able to get on top of Humanoid or Noah in a consistent fashion to make this a 4v5 instantly.
This gets very dangerous for Mad Lions though. Fnatic are going to be perfect in these choke points. They got Humanoid pushing top side. They don't want to over-aggress, but they're putting themselves in that position, and Fnatic aren't afraid to pull the trigger.
No, they're not, especially when Humanoid is hitting those shock blasts. Big chunk from Chasy and Hylissang. Nisqy coming from the south. 5 members of Fnatic staring down the tower. Multiple ultimates thrown out, knock up onto Carzzy, and he will just get dropped where he stands. Simply cannot escape the engage. 2 more kills for Humanoid, and now they set their sights on the inhibitor turrets.
I mean, that tower was down. Half of Mad Lions run away, half of them want to stay and play, and Fnatic end up punishing as a result. Now Fnatic again, they just get to brute force their way through this.
I mean, look at this. Equalizer just to clear the wave. It will not save the objectives. Nisqy's forced back to the fountain to heal up. Inhibitor will be secured. It's 30 seconds to the next dragon, a minute to the Baron, and it is nearly a 10,000 gold lead in favor of Fnatic.
Yeah, this should be easy peasy for Fnatic. Now reset, go towards the bottom side of the map, take the dragon. You don't even need to really put your vision down for it, and then just go and set up around the Baron and bring Mad Lions into a choke point again and just rinse and repeat like you have been for the past 10 minutes.
And here you can see Carzzy, he already realized his mistake too late. The 2 big ultimates are coming across, and he's like, well, I'm literally where X marks the spot, so I'm going to go down here. Fnatic now, as you say, coming back out onto the map. They have full control, and there's so little that Mad Lions can do. No flashes on towards Elyoya makes it so difficult for him to find that engage.
Maybe, just maybe, if Fnatic go towards the dragon, it gives Mad Lions a window to set up vision, and it's a little bit scary at absolute best for Fnatic to kind of retake this territory. Or maybe they go for a Baron flip straight up. Seems like neither is the case, but maybe if Elyoya gets a deep enough flank on a good angle, if they got towards the Baron, it can be good.
It is still 10 seconds before it spawns. I think Elyoya's made it into enemy territory without being spotted. Chasy's simply not there. Teleport is available for him. And the rest of Fnatic now turning their attention to the middle lane. Oscar fires first. That will zone away Carzzy. Recall coming out here from both members, Mad Lions and Nisqy again. Fishing for an opportunity. Okay, no Ornn ultimate. That is a minor win. They still have to deal with everything else of Fnatic. With Fnatic's control, they're just backing away. Baron seems to be the most obvious objective.
I think the good news for them, though, is that Hilly has his ultimate available. So at least if it's Razork's ultimate that's coming across the line, they can use that Milio ult to get away and try and do damage. But you can see the poke is going to start to land from Humanoid. Noah's just free clearing these waves. And as long as you're stuck in your base as Mad, it becomes so much more difficult for you to try and find angles of attack for Elyoya. That's why, like, I'm trying to watch the cooldown on Elyoya's flash. It feels like that's the one spell they're waiting on that maybe, just maybe, they can find that big wombo.
At this point in time, another 45 seconds for Elyoya. Keep your eyes on the minimap as well. Those super minions in the top lane making their way towards the stairs. Gigantic damage once more. At least drop low. Got the flash and the heal with the poke secured. Fnatic start off the Baron. Mad Lions now stepping forward. Level 12 for Elyoya. Flash is still around 30 seconds away. Carzzy fires off. The arrow does not find a target. The Nature's Grasp is a zoning tool. Elyoya's the target, but all of a sudden it's Carzzy caught once again. Flash may be needed. He gets away from Call of the Forge God. The Equalizer is decent, but this is Mad Lions on the retreat. They cannot layer the Magnet Storm and the Equalizer. The Nexus turrets are now being focused by super minions to boot. And with the Baron and all 5 members of Fnatic, they now turn their sights to yet another objective.
The only good thing here for Mad is that Razork and Oscarinin don't have ultimates, but with Baron and the fact they have to respond to some of these supers in the top side, they might still end up losing maybe the bottom side inhibitor or the mid lane inhibitor as well.
It is such a difficult position here for the Mad Lions. They fell behind early, and Fnatic have managed to force their way through this entire game. Elyoya's got the flash. He's got the ulti. But what will follow on from that? Chasy does not have the Equalizer available. He's stepping forward. Trymbi's taken some damage. Elyoya zoned away. The third inhibitor's going to fall. Fnatic looking to strike first in this best of 3.
This is where Fnatic, you can just see they're just trying to play keep away from Elyoya. Razork just marking him this entire time. They know they got the poke. They know they can just continue this push.
All right, 5 seconds for Razork's ultimate. The rest of Fnatic using those Baron-empowered minions to push onto the next.
Okay.
Elyoya simply can't do anything, and Humanoid finds yet another shot. His shot plots have been phenomenal, and Nisqy's going flying. Knocked up multiple times as Nature's Grasp is thrown out. 1, 2, 3, 4 kills for Fnatic. The Nexus turrets are falling. The Nexus focus next. And Fnatic take down Mad Lions.
That was excellent from Fnatic. The execution, I feel like they just always do when they wanted to take a team fight. And to me, Mad Lions looked a little bit lost every time they walked into a choke. Fnatic, decisive.
We got that first good fight at Dragon from Mad Lions. We're like, hang on a second, these guys are taking space, they're working around their vision, they're trying to make sure they can get priority. And then Fnatic were like, yeah, we're not going to let you do that anymore. This game is done.
Oscarinin completely stamping authority in the top lane, followed up by a Razork completely playing the early game well. He got an advantage, he then invaded, and he simply controlled Elyoya after that first clear.
Yeah, I feel like there really wasn't too much that Elyoya could do, right? He tried to attack the mid lane, it didn't really work out. I think outside of that, it's very hard to play around an Ashe Milio lane. The top side was getting slammed. He was kind of limited for options, right? And I feel like once you get to that mid-game stage, there's no frontliner to tank up the Maokai Ornn, to tank up the Ornn. And I feel like that just ended up resulting in these very runaway team fights for Fnatic.
Yeah, I think the lock-in of the Braum really caught them out because you kind of go, well, we wanted to pick like Alistair or an Analyst or something that could go for the engage, but now with the Braum, that makes it very, very difficult. So you're kind of in this position now where you're like, all right, well, I guess we go for an Enchanter, but that kind of doesn't give us the CC we want. It was a bit messy.
Question is, what do Mad Lions do? Their chance at playoffs is on the line in the next game. Before we get to that, we're going to go join Guldborg at the Telestrator.
And thank you very much, Trevor. Now, you were talking about Oscarinin in the beginning. I want to continue that conversation just a little bit and have a look at his laning phase, because quite frankly, we had a certified top gap up here. Now, in the beginning, I do actually want to take a little bit of a look at the enemy jungler, which of course is Elyoya. He did a full clear fit red side into a mid lane gank a little bit late. Now, when you have this information as a top laner, you know you can play full forward, because the enemy jungler pretty much has to go back and take his own camps. Unless he's Malrung, of course, then he'll probably still go top. But in this instance, this tells Oscar, I can do whatever I want here in this top lane. He want to out-trade me, stand in my face, try and do rumble things. I'm not going to let him. And because of this, he just continues to get lane pressure and lane pressure and lane pressure. Some of this also comes down to the fact that Chasy takes a few bad trades as well, as you can see here. Ending up in lane like this, isolated, is insane. What's even more insane right now is the fact that he's not only losing these creeps in terms of gold, he's also going to be missing XP. What's also happening at the same time, while he's chasing Chasy away, he's actually going to drag a minion wave with him. This means that the next minion wave currently coming in the top lane is actually going to be going straight into the enemy tower, which means that they will start killing these minions, setting up a big slow push in a bit. And all these creeps, Chasy's also missing. So he's missing a huge amount of CS. The minion wave is finally coming back at the slow push that we mentioned here. And still, no jungler around for Chasy. A huge crash has just come in. They have communicated the slow push. And because of that, Razork is now up here taking advantage of the situation. Now Chasy, with no teleport, is just going to have a wave completely fast pushed out. So Fnatic get first blood. They're going to drag in another wave, as you can currently see. Chasy doesn't have teleport. Oscar has a level advantage. Once again, notice an insane minion wave being taken away from them. Oscar, level 6. Chasy, only level 5. This allows Oscar to just straight up walk up to him. Chasy can't trade back. He will lose it. All he can do is try and go back to his turret to try and get some of the minions. But once again, Oscar's just straight not allowing him to do it. Now on the other side of the map, they're not actually getting anything done. They're just walking around in river. Chasy has been left out completely to dry. And because of that, it becomes very easy for Oscar once again to set up a kill for himself. Now, this was a bit of Chasy's own fault, but also the fact that he never really got any jungle help. That is just one way that you can accumulate a huge lead. We're going to take it over to the analyst desk, talk about how Fnatic, well, further got advantages in this game.
Yeah, because they clearly did, and thank you so much for this breakdown. But I want to touch on Mad Lions here quite a bit, because we've talked during Reddit check about the fact that Elyoya was nowhere to be seen when it comes to top lane. So I want you guys to tell me what was happening on the other side of the map for Mad Lions. What was he being active someplace else, or?
Well, like we spoke about in Reddit check, Elyoya is playing like top lane doesn't exist. So him not being top wasn't much of a surprise for us, and I think we saw Fnatic being ready for it. They took advantage of it, both with a matchup that he was comfortable with in the top lane, but also with Razork helping. Elyoya on the other side was primarily focused on Jayce, which I think was great, because Nisqy actually, despite the state of the game, was really fed in the Ahri, and he was doing some work. But of course, it was difficult to shut down Humanoid entirely, and I think he dealt really well with the pressure that was coming, because, you know, Elyoya did gank him quite a bit.
And it feels like, as you said, that Nisqy, like last week, is having a great series. So maybe something to explore for Mad Lions going into Game 2 here. But GB, you were mentioning Fnatic and what they've been doing well. I know we criticized them a lot for their teamfight abilities, their mid-game, and here I have a bit of criticism to share still, because we saw the bad and the ugly from Fnatic again.
I feel like this has been Fnatic throughout the entirety of regular season. In the early game, they're insane. They make everything go for them. They're so bloodthirsty, they take every team fight they can. But that's also the bane of Fnatic at the same time, because in the mid game, at times they will take fights that just doesn't work out for them. Now, here in the beginning, I do believe it's one of the fights that's going to work out for them, and they're actually just once again going to be rallied by Oscar having a pop-up performance. But there's also the other side of that coin, which we will get to.
I think one of the best ways to look at Fnatic is that they're not a team that has a slow phase or a setup phase. Often, when they see a champion or when they know an objective is spawning, they just all in. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it's going to end up like what we see right here, where, you know, they get a little over-ego, and all of a sudden the entire lead they built for themselves is gone in a matter of 30 seconds.
Yeah, and these are the things that, I mean, you definitely don't want to do against a team like Mad Lions. Maybe if the draft had been a bit more beneficial to the comeback gold they got, it could have been really huge for them. But for Fnatic in general, it's something they do want to clean up, because we've seen it. Even when they looked at their best, they still had these moments. But then you get to late game Fnatic as well, and they just make it click again. They come 5-member on the screen, and they just get what they need to get done. They clean out this fight, they get Baron afterwards. And once that happened in this game, there really shouldn't be a way that you actually throw it away.
And unlike last week, where we criticized them for being maybe too passive against SK Gaming, they kept the ball rolling here, and they kept the pressure that they built into the early game. But on the side of Mad Lions, once again, when you see this kind of composition, you need to be in sync. You need to get the Rell and the Rumble set up at the same time. And I was surprised to see them with this approach, given how disjointed they look like lately.
Yeah, I think we definitely saw a much riskier draft from Mad Lions, in the sense that there was a lot of playmaking. They're going to need to get ahead early and snowball. Rumble is going to need assistance versus the Ornn, so he can start getting the ball rolling and really have a big influence in the game. While on the other side, Fnatic played a very, very simple comp. And it reminded me of my own Fnatic days, because back then, whenever we really had our backs against the wall, there was a meme inside our team, which was, if we're under pressure, we lock in Braum. Hyli is going to do great on it. It's consistent, it's stable team fighting. Ornn is the same thing, you know. They have a solid front line, they have good peel, they have a go button, and when Ornn ults, everyone just goes ham. Whereas in Matt, they don't have a front line. They have a lot of playmaking, but skill shots are going to have to land for anything to work out, and it's just, you're setting yourself up to play on hard mode for no reason.
I mean, let's take a look at the draft actually here, because GB, I was kind of surprised. I love the first rotation of picks on the side of Mad Lions. I don't know what happened in the second rotation as well, but moving in to game 2 here with elimination on the line, what do you want to see and what do you want out of the draft?
I mean, I think you want to create a complete draft instead, because it felt like here you grabbed a lot of different things. Like the first 2 rotation with Rumble and Rell, that's great. Now pick around it, get the Rumble going, and then play for it. But then what happens is they get a bit lost in the picks that Fnatic draft for themselves. As soon as they come in with the Braum, they know they can't really play well into it. They want an Enchanter. They want to play it with Ashe as well, because Ashe Milio is super good. But now you've also drafted a comp without a front line to play around with, which Ashe and Milio. And that makes the game super difficult to play.
And it's super hard to come back, and especially with how they played the early game here. So Broxa, moving on to the next game, they selected a red side. So obviously they feel comfortable with what they had going on here. I'm actually surprised that they wouldn't go blue side, but how do you explain this, and what do we want to see?
Well, I also expected them to go blue side, so that catches me a bit of guard, first of all. But I think for Matt, these games are going to come down to team fighting, because both of these teams are like, you know, their games are always decided around neutral objectives, around Baron, like around, you know, picks or fight setups in the mid and late game. And I'm sure they're able to recognize that their comp was really difficult to play out. I'm sure they're going to be able to recognize that they're going to need frontline. And like GB said, I think Fnatic's 4-5 just caught them really off guard on the Braum. And I would expect big adaptation in 4-5, but perhaps also slightly different picks and bans in the first phase. Something like the Jayce, for example, I think was a massive issue for them, because, you know, Humanoid just went full lethality and one-shot all the squishies with
despite being camped.
Yeah, despite being camped and struggling in the early game.
We'll see their approach here, moving into game 2. And can the Mad Lions once again produce some magic on the verge of elimination, or will Fnatic move on to SK tomorrow? We'll be right back for game 2.
Does he go for the dive? I think he might be feeling
he's
it.
dead.
Gets the knockup, gets the bellows breath, and another kill.
I think you can look on.
Look on Ashe, look on Ashe.
Look. Go Milio.
Nice.
For the hammer fall, we can't find the damage just yet. The magnets are thrown, but here comes Noah, flashing over the wall, forcing the Mad Lions back. Oscar's turned onto Elyoya, and it is Fnatic once again winning out the fights.
I think I can ulti here soon, by the way.
Look on Ashe. Ashe.
Is that?
Look nice. Yeah, go Milio.
Yeah, I got you.
We can end. Nice.